I'd like to call to order the Common Council meeting for May 4th, 2015. Will you please stand for invocation? Bobby, thank you.
Father, we thank you for this day, God. We thank you how you continue to bless us and keep us. God, we don't want to take the day for granted. You didn't have to let us be here, but we are. And we thank you for giving us another opportunity to serve our city. God, continue to bless each and every one of our representatives. Be with our council persons. Continue to watch over them, be with them. We know they get tired. We know they get weak. We know sometimes they want to give up, and sometimes they feel unappreciated. But let them know we do appreciate all that we do, and let them know that you've got their back, that you're going to keep them, give them the strength they need to make it through the day. God, I want to ask a special prayer for Mike's father. Be with him, be with Mike, be with that family. Give them the strength they need, God, at this time when we got someone ill, someone sick in our family. We don't always know why, but we do thank God for the time that we have with our families. And want you to be with Mike and his family. Give them the strength they need. Hold them up where they get weak. And God, we ask you to continue to be with our first responders. Continue to watch over them and help them to continue to be safe. God, we thank you, God, that you have given us some leaders in our city that care about our city. At this time, as the day before election, we ask you to be with all our persons who are running for office. Be with them, watch over them. Let them know that we appreciate the fact they care enough about our city to run. And God, whoever you have planned to put on the bus, God, we ask you to give them the desire, the wisdom they need to be what they need to be, and help them to continue to take care of our city in the way you would have them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bobby. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith. Councilperson Zastavny.
Here.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
Present.
Councilperson Sellers.
Present.
Councilperson Webb.
Here.
Council President Gill.
Present.
Councilperson Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect all 9 council members are present.
Okay, thank you. I have minutes from the council regular proceedings for April 20, 2015 to be approved.
Motion approved.
I got a
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second for the approval of minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, approval of the agenda, and I would let y'all know that we all were sent out an email by the city clerk, so we will be adding Scott McBoy with the police department. We'll put him under the department heads for approval for training. And I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for the approval of agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Claims to be approved. Heather.
Asking for claims to be approved at $639,690.26.
Okay, and I would like to ask that we remove the Thunder claims. Only, how's it that we were going to word that?
We were going to pass a contingent upon.
Contingent upon me finding out. Some of those should be paid by the city of Louisville. At least they have been in the past. So I just want to find out if they're paying them again this year or not. So I'll find that out tomorrow. We tried over this past Friday, but of course it was hard to get a hold of people.
Okay.
Just a question, Connie, so we're approving all the claims, those ones that are Thunder are going to be held until we find out if they get reimbursed or...
They should have, I think they should have filed them with a different...
Okay. So if they're filed, if they need to be filed, if they don't need to be paid by us, then you will pull them.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
I need to check to make sure that we will be reimbursed if we're supposed to be reimbursed. Because I think if we don't check on it, we'll end up eating the cost of everything.
Fair enough.
So I at least want to make sure that all the proper steps are being taken to make sure the proper people are being billed.
Do we know
Does that make sense?
approximately how much that is?
No, because I'm not sure what all it covers. It covers, I think they paid for golf carts before, and I think they paid for food, so I don't know what entails. I'll have to talk to the
Okay.
police department, or Ann Langley used to handle it, so,
Fair enough.
anyway.
Second.
So was that a motion, Connie, or?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we do have the second. We have motion and second. Any further discussion, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Heather. Report of the clerk.
Real quick, it's that time of year again, and I passed out, and I have received some. Each one of you all have two letterheads there. One is for the certificate of elected officials to the executive of the City of Jeffersonville on compliance with the municipal nepotism policy. Second one is the annual certification of elected official to the executive of the City of Jeffersonville on compliance with municipal nepotism policy involving direct line of supervision. And each year, they don't have to be turned in, I believe, till the end of the year, December, but we always make sure we start the process and have them in and ready in June. Because State Board of Accounts does look for these each year. So they're at your desk, but if you wouldn't mind signing them and passing them down to Mike Smith or giving them to me after the meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Is that all? Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Okay, we move on to unfinished business, which is Scott Lewis. The 2015 OR 23 was passed in the first reading, and that's the ordinance amending ordinance 2013 OR 8, authorizing city officials to use the credit card. Scott did email me. He is stuck in the drainage board.
So I make a motion to pass on the second reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass on the second reading. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have no new business. Our attorney's not here, so we will move on to department heads. Mr. Scott McCoy, you've got a training request.
Good evening. I have a training request for one officer to attend the Midwest Gang Investigators Gang Conference to be held in Omaha, Nebraska. Cost of registration is $300 and a travel expense of $200 from May 17th through the 20th. It's an excellent opportunity for our guys to network with other officers. I believe there's an officer from Clarksville and one from the Sheriff's Department going as well. To bring it's more of a national type thing, but it's to bring information back and to break that down locally for the gang activity in the area that's specific to Louisville and Southern Indiana. So it's an excellent opportunity for the officer to come back with information for the department.
Is it in your budget?
Yes.
Motion to approve the training? Second.
Got a
Thank you.
motion and second for the approval of this training. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Don't have any council. Was there any public comment, Les? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to council comments. Councilperson Smith. Councilperson Zastani.
Yes, there's a need to have a Parks Authority meeting before our regularly scheduled Parks Authority meeting. I wonder if it'd be okay with President Gill and with the council to have a Parks Authority meeting prior to our next city council meeting.
That's the 18th?
That'd be the 18th at 6 o'clock. And the issue was what was brought up at the Parks Authority meeting, and a number of people couldn't attend that. But the time-sensitive issue is the Rovers have requested, and we're considering beer sales at Worley, just a beer garden, and how that would work, and if that'd be acceptable to the board or not. It's time sensitive because they only have 6 games, and the first game is would already be before our next Parks Authority.
Can I make a comment? Because Monday, the last Monday is Memorial Weekend, we already moved it to the 18th. So
Oh, we did? Oh, so this is already
Yeah.
scheduled?
it's scheduled for 18th at 5:30.
Well, thank you. At 5:30? I was going to go for 6, so I guess we're going to be here at 5:30 May 18th, talk about parks.
Regularly scheduled meeting.
Thank you. That's all.
Councilperson Wadsworth?
No comments.
Councilperson Sellers?
No comment.
Councilperson Webb?
No comment.
Councilperson Samuel?
Oh,
Councilperson Owen?
Well, did
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilperson Julius.
He was
No.
taken aback.
I was. Are we skipping to me? I can do that.
Go
I
for
usually
it.
go last.
You're up.
Okay. Yeah, I have
I had my mouth open.
Sorry about that, that was my mess up. Go ahead, Councilperson Samuel.
There's been some issues of concern brought up regarding what I call commonly, lovingly called the green team. That's where we tried to, we had 3 or 4 departments that had, all of them were responsible for mowing different areas. Some were responsible for landscaping and doing some of the bioswales and things like that. We came up with the idea, or thought about the idea of trying to become more efficient by pulling all those employees together under one department head, which is going to be our parks. And for over 8 months, we've been working on that, talking about that. We've met with, been some council people on that. I know Wes has been involved, Paul has been involved. Potentially Kim has maybe been in a couple meetings, not all.
I've been in.
Dennis. And then we had every department head that was involved with mowing was involved with that for, like I say, 8+ months. So we had a plan, and then we even, at some of our most recent council meetings, we did an additional appropriation of, I believe it was over $100,000 to put towards this, to get this plan moving, to get it working. Unfortunately, there was a hire that was made to lead that team that did not meet the intent of the qualifications. The intent of the leader of that team was to be able to be somebody that has a very high degree of knowledge in plants, in bioswales, and horticulture in general. And potentially the job description didn't lay it out that clearly, but that certainly is the intent, because if we don't have the right person heading up this team, then we're setting it up for failure. And if that's the case, then because it was not brought to us to move as an issue from the administration, it was our idea. If that's the case, I'd rather us just pull the funding and go back to how it was before. And so that's some of the background involved with that. There's been some question on the qualifications of the person that's been hired. It was an internal hire, and I know the city tries to move people up, but this is such a position that it's a top-level position that we didn't feel we had the right person to move up, and so we needed to have those qualifications. So that was the initial intent, is to have the right qualifications on the front end. I'll say it again, whether or not the job description fully established that or not, that may be at discussion. But so those of us have been, some of us have been talking about this because we've spent so much time on it. I think we have a potential solution that would be a compromise on both sides, so we know for sure. I'm going to ask Ed. I really appreciate Ed doing this legwork and homework, but explain what you have, Ed, and then I can.
So you get to the point where does somebody meet the minimum experience qualifications, and that when you make that determination, you're trying to make that determination, and it's biased. I mean, and it could be considered political. It does qualify, it doesn't qualify. Well, I know one of the intent was we wanted to have somebody who was very knowledgeable, passionate, educated on agriculture, horticulture, as well as being able to do some of the basic maintenance of cutting grass. But you look around the parks and all the trees that die and all the plants that die. Why are they dying? Are they the wrong plants or the wrong soil? Are they diseased? Should the nursery be reimbursing us for giving us diseased plants to begin with? We have bioswales, and we continue to have more ornamental plants and everything, and it's beautiful. But we need a level of education and experience and professionalism, I think, And I think that's what the intent was for this position, to be able to identify plants and soils and be able to help us with beautifying our city, and as well as being more efficient as far as plants. So, okay, how do we judge that experience? What I thought is, rather than us going back and forth, does he meet minimum qualifications, why don't we go out into the industry and see if there's certifications that make that judgment for us, an independent third party. And there's an organization called the American Society for Horticultural Sciences, ASHS, and they have various certification programs, from the highest, if you have a doctorate and you're doing all kinds of research, they have a certification for that, but they have a very basic, low-level certification. And that certification program, it even says, this certification is so that it can provide the public and those in government and industry with a means to identify those professionals who have demonstrated through a professionally developed exam and education program that they exhibit thorough knowledge of horticultural practices. And so what this organization has is a certification where you take a test, and it's a 100 multiple choice question test. You have up to 4 hours to take it. Talks about landscape and maintenance design, talks about production of turf and ornamental plants, talks about monitoring, testing plants and trees, diagnosing and managing plant problems. So all those type of issues, that's what would be tested to get this certification. So what my, I guess, compromise or middle ground would be is, why don't we consider having a third-party professional organization? This one, I would be my recommendation. There may be others out there, but this one seems to fit the bill. And have this person take the test, and if they qualify to sit for the exam and can pass the test, that they're, in my opinion, in my eyes, they're clearly qualified for the position.
But isn't that what, I thought that's what was done through Human Resources. I thought that was the process that we had already started and somewhat discussed and agreed to. I mean, I don't know the word.
You're talking about the qualification.
Yes, I don't know what the qualification, what the definition was, but my understanding was, because of the bioswales and the plants and all of the new type flowers that we have, especially in the bioswales, that have to maintain during rainstorms and all and stuff, that was the intent.
The problem, Mike, is, and Ed kind of alluded to it, and we probably, as we develop new job descriptions, we probably need to tighten it up a little bit. The last sentence of that says, equivalent education, experience, skills, knowledge may be considered. And that just leaves it open to anybody to say, oh yeah, I'll give you credit for...
Well, I read what Paul sent it to us in an email, and I don't even know it, but he's a weed whacker. That's not what this is. The guy cuts grass and weeds and repairs trimmers. I don't know. I guess that's not near what we wanted.
And I guess the dilemma we're in is we have somebody hired. We have grass is needing to be cut, and we took it from all the departments and put it under Paul. And now there's concern about the leader of his team, and we have to make, in my opinion, we have to make sure that it's going to be able, that this person is going to be able to lead the team, and not with the knowledge, as Ed read, in that, which that was the intent for 8+ months. That was the intent. And so the test, I'm not sure, Ed, is it, you had read something to me earlier that they could call to see or check to see if they qualify to sit for the test.
There are some minimum qualifications to sit for the exam. And it said, and you don't have to have a degree or anything like that, but you need to have these are all or statements. 3 years paid full-time experience in a horticultural type employment.
What's the definition of horticultural? The reason I ask that is, that's not a weed eater and riding a zero-turn motor. I mean,
See, that they would determine if this person has been working full-time in horticulture in some way, or you can have a 2-year degree in horticulture, or have 2 years of paid practical experience in a horticultural setting, or you can have a 4-year degree in horticulture or a related field, and 1 year of paid practical experience in the horticultural field. So, I mean, it seems pretty open if you're, as far as, I'm not sure exactly what horticulture means and how they would define that, but That would be the minimum qualifications to go ahead and sit for the examination, for the
Kim, didn't
certification.
Liz write these qualifications up? Didn't we pay her to put this together?
Yes, based upon the recommendations that you all gave, but to Nathan's point, we had that caveat at the end. Typically, that caveat is to keep an employer from having to so narrowly define who you're hiring that you eliminate people who would be good candidates. And it's not uncommon in human resources to have that. You know, we've had several meetings, and one of the things that was discussed today is that the positions that the council feels or deems that are more important, that maybe those need to be more narrowly defined.
Paul, this didn't, when you spoke to us at the Parks meeting, either last time or time before, there was an individual that had expertise in this field.
There are 4 individuals that have expertise. There are 4 people I interviewed.
Right.
They brought different things. Some were better, one had a degree in horticulture from Ball State.
Okay.
The other had many years, the other 2 had many years experience.
But this wasn't part of that. This individual, and I don't know who they are, but they're not part of that, correct?
The person that was hired was a part of those 4 that were interviewed.
It was part
But
of
were they part of the 3 you
Three.
just mentioned?
the 3 with the horticultural
Sorry, I
background.
meant to say 3 with the, 4 that I interviewed, 1 had a degree, the other 3 had experience.
Okay. But of the 3 that had experience, I know this guy worked for Clarksville, and he cut grass, and he planted flowers, and he mowed lawns. And horticulture is a study of plants. It's much more involved than just cutting
I understand
grass
that.
and that type of thing. But the one that had more experience, how long had he been working? Not the one that was
Most
hired.
experience was 20-plus years, 11 with one in another county in Indiana.
Yeah. And that wasn't mowing grass.
I know that that's,
So this society has numerous tests at numerous locations, almost a couple a month at different states. Timing-wise, this one, the one that seems to would fit would be, there's a test July 14th. It's in Columbus, Ohio. Application deadline is June 6th.
This
I'm just saying that, I don't know if that's the best solution, but I was just trying to find a way for an independent organization to verify some qualifications.
It seemed like our intent was to have the leader of this team to be somebody that knew a great deal about plants and that could lead their team, lead the people who are going to actually cut them, prune them, mow them, whatever, and then that not be the person that's doing it. They're helping lead that team and design areas for us and make them look very nice.
And that's under the essential duties and responsibilities of this position. Develops maintenance schedules, protocols for lawn, trees, shrubs, flower, and plant care to ensure the city's green space is maintained in an attractive, orderly, functional, and healthy manner. Provides appropriate training to staff on landscape care and on the proper and safe use of equipment, chemicals, and tools related to maintaining trees.
So where we are, the way I interpret this is we had set up and moved money and funded this green team, I'll call it. And there's some questions. I certainly have questions on is it doing what we intended it to do and the intent of the job description, and I don't think it does. But I don't know for sure. And Kim and our HR and our Parks Department who's heading it up, they have opinions and they've shared those opinions.
but I've read Paul's opinions, and it's not what our intent.
And so what the only option, we don't do the hiring. We just set out what the intent was. And again, I'll say this was not the administration. The administration didn't come to us and said, "Will you set this up for us?" It was I came and I said, "What about this idea?" And then with some other folks here, I don't want to take credit. Dennis was with us, and I know Lisa was part of it, and many others. And if it's not going to be set up the way we intended, then I don't want to add the additional money for it. Let's go back to how it was. And so what I would suggest or propose is that we use Ed's compromise, and we ask either HR or Mr. Merkley to check out this test, to have this guy, or we do it for them, see if he can sit for the test. If he doesn't even qualify to sit for the test, then we need to go hire the person that can can sit for the test or that obviously has those degrees. Or if not, we can defund the position. And so what I was...
How long in the summer, Nathan, are we going to allow this to go?
Right.
Until it's like,
See, that's my problem with this. And I mean, this is very, very disappointing because we spent about 8 months on
right,
this.
I know.
And, I think everybody, when you can, we support hiring within. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But, I don't see where we're going to benefit ourselves by waiting 2.5 months and get 2.5 months down the road before we even take the test. That's July 15th. That's a show that I go to every year. It's put on by Ohio State University. And it's a good show. But what I'm saying is, I think we're stepping out of the box that we created. And there's political influence here. And it's really a shame because it's destroying what we spent all these months trying to accomplish. And, I personally, being in this industry and knowing what it's going to take, and I read what Paul wrote, that's not what we're looking for in this individual. We kind of specified, and I agree with Kim. You leave yourself out. At the end, you have to probably, in the HR field, you have to do that legally. I get all that. But what we're going to do is, we're going to spend 2.5 months, we're going to go down this road, and where we're going to be when we don't pass the test. Then we're going to take this person, and we're going to put them back where they were, if that position wasn't filled. If that position was filled, if it was a position that was in demand in the sewer department, then what do we do with this person? So, you're creating all kinds of problems here. So, I mean, why don't we defund it till next year? See if we can get a qualified candidate, if that's what the road we're going down?
I don't really, I think that this department, because the bowel swells are in my district, and I know what we started with, and I know what we have, and there's been tens of thousands of dollars that has been thrown away because there are, and I know nothing about it, but I know there's some plants and stuff that appreciate when you range, you got motor oils and fluids that run into these bowel swells, and these plants can survive on
They
it.
can.
Okay, it's not like a regular plant. So I know there's, and a lot of these have been destroyed because they have not been maintained properly.
Mike, it's happening in our parks too. That's my point. It's happening in our parks. So,
I understand that, but I'm saying that since we are at the beginning of the season, if you will, why can't we get back to where we started? Take what Ed, and I agree with what Ed is saying, but what I'm saying is let's look at redoing the whole structure, and then prior to, I guess, human resources putting it out, we're going to have to pay somebody else besides Liz to do this, and let's do it right, because this is a huge...
it's big.
It's big.
And we don't want it to fail.
It's a whole new department.
We don't want it to fail. That was the part of putting the criteria for this employee together.
Not only that, but the 10th Street expansion is going to have large bioswells to collect some of the initial quarter or half-inch cleansing rain, and them are big compared to downtown. And if we can't do it right, we're throwing a lot of money away. I want it right. I want to do it right. I don't know who the individual is or individuals. It's pretty irrelevant to me.
I don't know. I didn't want to know.
I don't either.
And so I want to do it right.
Well, we can't do away with it tonight. It takes a couple readings. So we have to adjust the salary ordinance. What we could do is we could propose to go back to how it was with the green team piece of this prior to changing it, with those couple positions that we added. On a first reading, we could do that. We don't have another meeting for a couple weeks. In the meantime, we can see if this... I would support paying for the test if it works. But if we can, in the meantime, know for sure this person does not qualify because they've told him, no, you don't qualify, or if he or she, when they read this about the test, they say, no, I know I won't be able to pass it.
Right.
Then we either, at that point, before our second and third readings, we either go and tighten up our description to find that person, or then we just go ahead and defund it. But in the meantime, they're already being paid. Let them just start mowing. Let them do the mowing piece like we need them to do. At least that's no different than somebody else mowing. I mean,
How many people
I
have
mean,
we
until we
hired?
defund it?
it'd just be
Because
a
it's
couple
not
more
going
weeks.
to take that long for them to make a phone call to find whether or not they qualify to take the test.
Right. And, yeah, so,
The one thing that you're doing is, if you are going to revert back, is you're taking all of these people out of different departments and you're moving them over. If you're not going to,
But we didn't do this.
I understand, Mike. I'm just telling you, that's why I say it's very disappointing in
Yeah.
how this is coming down.
We didn't do this.
What is the liability on the city for defunding positions that have already been filled?
Well, I mean, as long as the person is paid for whatever work they have done up until you define, there would be no liability. And obviously, if they perform work, they have to get paid for work they've done.
Right.
But there's no guarantee, I mean, unless you enter into a written contract that guarantees a specific term of employment, it's employment at will.
Okay.
It is a mess.
so, I'm sorry, do you have more questions, Matt, or other people
No,
have
I'm
comments? Because I would look to, yes, Heather, and say I would put forth a motion that we would revert back with the salary ordinance. I'm sorry, that would be Kim. Okay. That we go back to prior to implementation of this green team, put those back where they need to be, just affecting those, and do that on the first reading with the expectation that maybe we'll have something resolved before we even have to vote the rest, or,
Have we hired anybody, Kim? We was going to have to hire one or two, like, to help with the lawn care and stuff. I mean,
There was two.
the actual laborers. Have we hired
Okay,
anybody?
both.
He was
We hired
also,
one.
he was also internal, but neither of those positions have been filled.
You mean from the previous
I think if you're
department?
going to save the first reading, you physically need to have
the document.
the document. I mean, you can say that, but I did request that
Yeah.
for next meeting, but we need that actual document. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I don't prepare, because that's not on my computer, I don't have that salary ordinance, but you
I
actually need that.
don't disagree. I mean,
Legally, to be a first reading, you actually need
Okay.
that.
Did you hear Kim, Nathan, say that these positions that these individuals left have not been filled?
Yeah,
Okay.
So the positions, they could revert back with, and there's no problem? Or, not a problem, but they have not been filled, so the positions...
Before I make that motion, did anybody else have another thought? I think everybody knows the intent. I beat this like a dead horse. I don't beat horses, but anyway.
So I guess you put on the agenda for the next meeting to go back, and in the meantime, I guess there's a chance to talk about the testing?
Sure.
With the new hire, or not? It sounds like,
I would think it makes sense to, if we know this is the direction, just to,
But that's up
To
to
do that,
the
to try to
executive
clarify.
to make that happen.
I mean, I would request, I don't know if it'll take place, but I would request that before our next meeting, that we see whether the person that's filled this position makes that contact, or our own staff make the contact to see if they qualify to sit for the test. That would tell you something right away. And then, but then I would request for our next meeting that we put this salary ordinance on. I guess I'd ask Kim to modify that and have it ready for our next meeting. That's my request. I don't know if we got to vote on that or not.
it's going to be on the agenda.
If you want it on the first reading, you do.
I can't
No,
do
can't
first
do it
reading
on
first.
first- Can't do first reading tonight.
Why?
Because
Because
he
we
said
don't
we've
have
got to
the
have something in
paper,
hand.
the actual paper.
And what are you requesting again? Can you
That-
dumb
that-
that down for me?
That at our next meeting, we actually have the paper that starts defunding it.
Okay.
And then whether or not we fulfill that on the second and third reading, at least it starts the process. Because, again, the intent was to hire this person that is highly qualified for the knowledge of horticulture and plants and so on. That's my
Do we
request.
need to make a motion on that?
Well, I mean, because actually, you're just asking for somebody to place
Yeah.
something.
Right, that's all we're
Any
doing.
council member
Yeah.
can
Yeah, so, okay, thank you. And I also have one more thing. Good luck to all those fellow council people that are up for election tomorrow. Hope it's favorable for all. And that's all I have.
Now I will go to Councilperson Julia. Sorry about that.
okay.
Looked at you and called you Councilperson Sanders.
The only thing I would second is everybody running for re-election or election the first time or whatever, good luck. Good luck. So the other thing I guess I will reiterate is I'm very disappointed in this green team thing. I just really am. I mean, when we started that, there was nothing political about it. And we wanted that to be good for Jeffersonville. That's what we wanted. And unfortunately, it's gotten all twisted around again, like many other things do. And I'm just, it's just a shame for Jeffersonville. And the other thing that we're doing is we're putting the current employee, whoever that may be, in a real precarious position. You know, it's unfortunate for them because now there's going to be a microscope on this person. So I just think it's something that could have been avoided and some good things could have come out of it. That's all I got.
Councilperson Owen?
Best of luck, everybody, tomorrow. I know it's nerve-wracking for most of us. That's all.
Okay. I guess I have a question for Kim. You know that they just stated they're going to put it on the agenda for next week, but, you know, we do have two different departments that, you know, Paul is here, but these two employees came from Lynn. He's posted these new positions. We can't really, we have no control over employees, but I hate to see somebody lose their jobs if those positions are filled. We defund it and they don't have a job to go back to. That's a major concern of mine. I don't want to put people out of work, but...
Confirmed with Lynn, he's aware of the situation.
Okay.
Plays out the way it sounds like it may.
Okay. All right.
You know, let me ask one other question while you're talking about that. If in 2 weeks we come back and you have no idea if this person can take the test or not, what do we do? Defund. Okay.
What's on the agenda?
I know that, but I mean, what pulls that trigger is my point.
Okay.
But it takes two meetings unless you do it all in one big reading. And I don't know if we want to do that or not. We need to expedite it, frankly, so we know, because we're messing with people's lives, but yeah, I would agree.
This wasn't the council's doings.
Right.
And that would involve Heather, appropriation by reduction.
They didn't want you to
Well,
feel left out, Heather.
we will discuss. Well, we also need to, well, I've got Kim here, and I've got Les and Scott here. We need to set up a meeting soon to discuss, unless you all want to do that by workshop, we can either have a small meeting or do it by workshop. But when we were back in our budget workshops, we put some things on hold and everything until after circuit breakers. We've gotten our circuit breakers back, case in point, raises, different things like that. With talking, in the meantime, State Board of Accounts has gone to, I believe, Amy and both Kim. There's certain wordings that we have to change, or there's certain things that we need to clean up and take care of in the salary ordinance. And I just guess I want an opinion of the council. Do we want to have a workshop and do this with all 9 members present, or do we just want to have a few of us?
It would be better to have a workshop, because then you'll just be talking about the same thing at the council meeting. Everyone will be asking, rightfully so, because everyone wants to know what they're voting on.
That'll all be retroactive, so if it's something that doesn't happen immediately, it'll all be retroactive until January, so nobody will lose anything.
Well, I know Scott wasn't in, but were you aware that they've set for May 18th at 5:30 for our next council meeting? We're going to have a Parks Authority meeting before that meeting. Okay. Okay. So, and I know everybody's schedules are kind of up in arms right now. Do we want to set a schedule for a workshop now, or do we want to I'll send out an email and we can try to get some dates together? What do you want to do? But we need to make this happen sooner rather than later. I mean, we already have a Parks Authority meeting before our next council meeting. Usually we do a workshop before our council meetings.
1st of June, does that work? Is that too late?
Would that be putting it too late, Kim?
No, and basically, it's not so much the State Board of Accounts per se, based upon what we went through with her this year and the salary ordinance, because ours apparently is a little bit different than some people's. And because we changed the police and fire admin staff to a pay grade, Amy and I are concerned, and Heather was part of that conversation, is if you start reading that, I think last I had him look at it to make sure that it wasn't like just out of my mind, is that we refer to, we never talk about civilians, we keep saying non-union, but now that we have police and fire administrative staff in a pay grade, in order to protect them in terms of them coming out of the quote union and collective bargaining and maintaining their longevity as is, because that was, the intent was not to take any of that away from them, in anticipation that if we're all not present or around the next time they come back, to make sure that that's clean and very well defined and there's no ambiguity in terms of we've changed them to a pay grade, but that doesn't mean that they, because they've come out of fire and police, that they have the civilian PTO time or the civilian longevity, because they're still going to honor what they currently receive as police and fire.
Right.
But when you read that, it's a little bit ambiguous, and I apologize for maybe not catching that prior to them going into a pay grade. But there were so many changes to that last ordinance, and when you go back and start looking at it, you're like, wait a minute. And I'm starting to, it's kind of nice when they're here, because then you start thinking about what they look at when they come in. And I think she was pretty pleased the last time she was here with how we do the ordinance and how we track all of our salary changes and all those things. So I thought let's just kind of stay with that momentum so that when she's here next year, it doesn't create undue problems for any of us.
Okay. So we'll address all that in the workshop too.
So I think it's not urgent, but I don't want to forget about it and come January, February, and she's back thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna look at that.
So our first meeting in June is the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
You all want to have a workshop at the 1st?
Yes.
Great.
Is that okay with everybody?
6 o'clock or 5:30, what do you think?
Kim, what time do you think, we're going to do it before our June 1st council meeting. What time, 5:30 or 6? Given, remember, we have a 7 o'clock council meeting, so how long do you think we'll need? An hour enough, or do we need an hour and a half?
Well, hopefully do some groundwork beforehand. I can kind of get some ideas on some language. I'd say 5:30 just to be safe.
Okay. Scott, can you advertise that, please?
Yes, I'll
Food at 5:30.
5:30. I knew that food at 5:30. There you go, Nate. And you should have in front of you, I think, thank you, Candy, your tickets for Taste of Jeff and Chocolate Stroll. You all have your calendars marked for that. And good luck, everybody, tomorrow. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.